My name is Ariane. I'm a healer, intuitive trauma coach, and a spiritual teacher. In this video, I share with you the Q&A section of my online workshops that I host. If you would like to be involved in the online workshops, make sure to follow me on social media, as that's the place I'll be announcing the dates for all upcoming workshops. These are completely free workshops, and it allows you to ask me any questions you have about your own journey. Okay, I can see a hand up. I'm going to go to a hand, and it's Farhan. Farhan. I hope I said that your name right, Farhan.
Farhan.
Farhan. Okay, lovely.
Well, I got in there first. That's it's amazing. Yeah. So you've said a few things in that I don't know, less than 10 minutes that have resonated. Forgiveness, meeting unmet needs through anger, letting go. Those are the three things that I've literally just written down in my notebook. So I don't even know what the question I'm going to ask is, but I'll just give you a whistle stop, right? I've spent the last maybe 20, 30 years dealing with a myriad of mental health issues caused by trauma in my upbringing. My role model, the mirror that I presented myself through in life, was my father, who was an inherently angry man. And so I hit adulthood like a train wreck, right? I was unprepared, incapable of dealing with life as an adult. And so, yeah, I've spent these last 20, 30 years trying to deal with, the repercussions of that. And so, yeah, recently it's the anger which I've realized that I have been a deeply angry man, full of rage. And so every interaction I have, the way I look at life is through a prism, is through spectacles of rage, right? So I'm not even looking at life as a reality because it's been tainted, right, by rage, by anger. And so my reactions to it have been defensive fights. I'm deeply angry at my father. I am deeply angry at myself for the impact I've had on other people. I'm incapable of forgiveness where I am right now. I can't forgive myself for what I've done to others. I have no interest of forgiving my father, right? Forget about him. I can't even forgive myself. And I've heard it time and again. People have close to me, people not so close to me, have talked about this letting go. I don't know what it means. I don't know what it means. I don't know what forgiveness is. For me, forgiveness is just giving up, right? When I get angry, now I have a switch. It's just like, you know what's going to happen. Don't fucking do it. Do not react. Okay? Because you will react and it will be an angry reaction. So it's almost like I'm giving up.
I understand.
I
understand.
And I don't know what the question I'm asking. Look,
there's already a question in there. I get it.
Where do I even begin? Where do I even begin to let go? I don't even understand the concept.
I understand. Am I rightly in presuming, obviously, with your name, that what's the background culture?
Heritage is Indian, Pakistani, of Muslim heritage.
Yeah. The reason I ask is, obviously, different cultures, there are differences.
100%, yeah.
With those cultures, anger is very, very involved in them.
Yeah.
One thing I want to start by saying is, when you get a full understanding of what forgiveness is, you realize that it's not a choice. There is not a human being on this planet that can forgive for wanting to forgive. And there's not a human being on this planet that can forgive for choosing to forgive. even if someone feels like they chose to forgive, what they're actually doing is in that moment, they chose to let go. And I will explain what letting go is. They chose to let go, and the outcome of that is forgiving. And I really, really need you to hear this. You don't need to forgive your dad. Even though this is a message that no doubt you've probably heard a lot, when we go towards trying to do something we are incapable of doing, we think that there's something wrong with us. We think that we're broken, we're incapable, we're not doing it right. You don't need to forgive anyone, whether it's yourself or whether it's your dad. Forgiveness is the outcome of your goal, which is letting go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain a little bit about letting go, but the explanation itself isn't necessarily going to tell you how to do it. That would be additional explanations.
That would be too easy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was the same. At the beginning of my journey, I was like Googling on YouTube, what is letting go? Like, what does it mean? Everyone's saying letting go. Like, letting go of what? I'm not holding on to anything. We have experiences in our lives that's emotionally distressful for us without any resolution. We are creatures of needs, so our needs are not met in the moment where something will happen. Now, this is what trauma is. Trauma falls in the definition of like the smallest thing that can happen to you, or you would see as small in today's societal beliefs. Now, we think it's only when a car crash happens or death in the family or sexual abuse, but trauma happens when you're scolded as a child. Trauma happens when your mother walks out of your eye line as a baby. Trauma happens when you're taken off the teat too early. Trauma happens when your caregivers forget to pick you up. Trauma happens when you're not considered for a decision in the moment a family might be talking. Trauma happens when people are making fun of you in a group environment. Trauma happens so much more than you would ever think it does. And it's a very normal way for a human being to react in the moment that they're experiencing emotional distress without any resolution for that distress. What we do in that moment is we have to stay safe because we have an unmet need, and whatever that need is, the end result of that need is that I have an unmet need that I need meeting in order to feel safe. So I feel unsafe right now. So let's say, for example, I'm in a group environment with my first social circle, which is my family, and I'm made fun of. Now, when I'm made fun of in that moment, everyone's against me. And I require connection. All human beings require connection for survival. Connection is as important as food and water for a human being's survival. Without it, we are dead. There are experiments that we have done that show this. So, in a moment where the people that I rely on the most for my survival, I am disconnected from by the shame that is being placed onto me from the experience of being made fun of by the group. I now feel annihilation. This is how we work. The reason we feel annihilation in that moment is because we're a herd species, we're a relationally dependent species, and we're social creatures. We have evolved to be able to stick together, to be a herd in order to survive. So if something is happening and I'm disconnected from that, I feel annihilation, which pushes me towards getting reconnected to that again. So in the moment I'm disconnected, I have to reject the part of myself which is causing me to be disconnected. And that might be because this part of myself expressed anger. That might mean because this part of myself has a certain behavior, spoken a certain way. And in the experience where it might be very dangerous for me, so like in a car crash or something like that, or sexual abuse, it will be the part of me that has experienced that accident. I'm going to reject that part of myself by putting it somewhere I don't have conscious awareness of, which is my subconscious. It's still within me, I just don't have conscious awareness of it. Now that part of myself holds on to the emotion of the experience. So if that child is being picked on by the group, that part of me holds on to the shame that that part of me is feeling. That doesn't mean the shame has disappeared from me. It hasn't gone. That part might also feel anger as well, because anger shows the thing that we're powerless to change. I'm powerless to change this thing to how I want it. And how I want it is I want to be accepted and connected to everyone. So I'm also angry. The way we keep ourselves safe is by rejecting this part of myself. But I still feel this part of myself quietly. When I feel this part of myself really loud is what we call a trigger. A trigger is when this part of myself with the emotion of anger, with the emotion of shame comes into my awareness because something in my external reality has happened. Now it's bringing it to my awareness. So I'm starting to feel that unsafety again. But how have I always kept myself safe? And the only way that I know how to is by rejecting it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reject it again. I'm going to put it back into the place I don't have awareness, which is my subconscious. That's how I've always kept myself safe. Now, what does letting go mean? Letting go means that I have to bring that part of myself in, because that part of myself right now is holding on to the shame. It's holding on to the anger. Because I'm not taking that part of myself on. I've not integrated this part of myself. So how do I let go of the shame and let go of the anger of this part of myself? I integrate this part of myself. I go through the experience. I take this part of myself on, feel the anger that it has, feel the shame that it has, and allow myself to release this emotion, to let go of the unhealthy way that I have been keeping myself safe by meeting this need. So letting go is what we essentially, we talk a lot about healing. Healing is essentially like a tool, something that you would do on your self-development journey. To do a healing process, whatever that kind of healing process is, allows you to let go of the unhealthy way that you've been meeting an unmet need due to an experience you had where it was emotionally distressful without any resolution in that moment. Now, those experiences have happened hundreds, if not thousands of times, especially in the culture you were brought up in. So the best thing to do is to learn how you work as an emotional being, is to learn how you can bring these parts of yourself in with love, is to learn how to integrate these parts of yourself. This is what will allow you to let go. And when you let go more and more, just like I said earlier, you get to a place of forgiveness, whether that's forgiving yourself or forgiving others. Because you realize that these parts of you have only been acting in a way because they feel unsafe. No, I kind of dumped a lot of information on you there. but that's the reason why I record these sessions. So this can be viewed later on again.
Yeah, for sure. I think you've given, like you said, right? You haven't given me the answer per se. You've given me the areas of.
I've given you the understanding of letting go. The actual doing it itself requires you to learn. If you were going to go drive a car, you would need to learn how that car works. The requirement of you learning how you work as an emotional being, it's a requirement. This is why everything that I do, I also put out videos, I put out online courses, I put out everything, because it's one thing me just saying this stuff, but the most asked question I get is, all right, how do you emotionally heal yourself? It's not a one sentence answer. But what you can do, and what value that I can give you now, is to journal. Learn how to journal. Learn how to journal without trying to change what you're thinking. Without labeling, well, I shouldn't think like this, and I shouldn't say this, I shouldn't think this. Put all your thoughts from your head out on a piece of paper and just journal. Talk about your anger to yourself. Validate these parts of yourself. My most famous quote is, how you feel every time is correct, because your feelings, your emotions are a communication to you. It's these parts of you going, hey, I'm here. And they can't be incorrect because they're trying to get your attention. So spend moments of the day or the week where you sit down and you write everything that makes you angry without trying to change it. That's a good place to start. And whenever I was in a very similar culture, I was born in Iran, so I had that culture as well.
Yeah, I've Persian heritage going back a few generations myself.
Yeah, so I've had a lot of anger, and one of the best things that I started doing was just beating the shit out of my bed.
Previous video you were on, you said this. I remember you saying the same thing. Yeah, it keeps coming back to me every now and then. Yeah.
Let it out.
I need to be in a fairly safe place to let go like that.
You do. You do, and that's okay. And I had to wait till my son was in school, and whatever makes you feel comfortable and safe. But it's required to allow yourself to feel how you do. I hope that answered you.
Yeah, I appreciate the guidance. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Okay. I do see the direct messages. I'm going to go to one more hand up, and then I will come to the direct messages. The next one is Oksana. I hope I said that name right.
Hi, Arian. Do you hear me?
Hi, Oksana. Yes, I can. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you. I was thinking that my question was not quite related to the forgiveness thing, but the more you talk just right now, I think that's actually quite connected. So it's quite a short one. I'm in a transition period for the last couple of months of shedding some perceptions, and the viewing and like everything is just like starting to crawl and fall apart. And I got to the point when I realized that also a lot of beliefs taking its place, that it's actually not serving me. And a lot of them were limited beliefs. But in the most part, I realized that it's actually every belief comes to one in a deeper meaning to it comes to not being good enough. So like, doesn't matter which type of belief, the deeper I dig, it's still not good enough. And I thought maybe it's also doing something with forgiving myself, but it's not, it's easy to, but when it's basically, I realized it's in every part of my life. Maybe you have some suggestion on that, because it's quite heavy to see it, But also I understand that there's also a lot of blame and shame around it, also on myself. So that's like I'm going in a cycle, cannot forgive myself and blaming myself for it. And also I'm not good enough for not forgiving myself. So let's start something like that.
No, I understand. Just so you know, there seems to be a bit of a lag gap here, but I will answer your question. So you're absolutely right. This one thing that I realized on the journey as well, you've got like your beliefs, and it could be I'm unloved, I'm rejected, I'm unattractive. A belief can be absolutely anything. Your belief system is what creates your reality. And you can have a belief about anything. It can even be, I believe the TV is going to fall off the wall. That is a part of your belief system. So we talk about these unconscious beliefs, but it's not like, oh, they can only be these. It can be anything. It can be a belief that my hair isn't nice. It can be a belief that, you know, my body isn't in a nice shape. It can be whatever it is. We can go to the other belief. So if we were to kind of create it like levels, you could say my thought creates my emotion, which is then creating the meaning / belief. Because it means if I'm thinking that my hair isn't nice, that will make me feel despair, because I feel I am powerless to making my hair look nice, which means, because it's not nice, that I'm unattractive. And if I'm unattractive, then other layer is because I'm not good enough. Whatever meaning or belief that we give, we can always attribute it to the reason this is the outcome of what I'm believing is because I'm not good enough. I'm rejected because I'm not good enough. I'm unlovable because I'm not good enough. Now, one of the things that I say to people, a lot of people, understandably, we all want to find our worth. And it is true that you are worthy for just being alive. That is 100% true. But one of the reasons that you don't really hear me saying that a lot is because it can be extremely invalidating to people. It's like, oh, thanks, I'm hearing that here. I'm not feeling it here. I'm just hearing it here. So it's true. A lot of people want to feel that. To find your worth isn't by healing one part of you. You're not going to find your worth by doing this one thing. It's a gradual thing, state that you reach, a gradual point of your journey that you will reach based on the continuous work that you're doing. You're an ecosystem. You're not one thing. You are many parts. All humans have multiple personalities. You have hundreds, if not thousands, of parts of yourself. And many of the ones that we've rejected are because of the experiences we've had. So if we've had experiences where we've been picked on, you know, made fun of, where it's been scary, where we've been rejected, where we've been abandoned, where all of these unsafe parts to us all carry a certain type of meaning. I've been rejected because I'm unlovable. I've been abandoned because I'm unlovable. You know, the person rejected me when I put myself out there because I'm unattractive. All of these are feeding energy to these beliefs. So, and all of these beliefs are also because I'm not good enough. So there's a lot of parts of me that are feeding this energy to that. So how do I find my worth? I find my worth by bringing these parts of myself in and showing them that that is not the case, by loving them. Because once these parts of myself feel loved and accepted by me, then they're not going to carry the same beliefs. Their beliefs are going to change. Oh wow, I'm starting to be accepted. Yes, I accept you. I don't need anyone externally to accept you. But that is also part of your journey, and that will come as well. But it's about finding your worth within yourself. Once you start showing these parts of you, then they're not giving as much energy to these beliefs that I'm unattractive, that I'm unlovable, that I'm rejected, that I'm abandoned, that I'm not good enough. And they start changing their beliefs. So you start lowering the beliefs about not being good enough. And at the same time, you start creating new beliefs that I am good enough, with affirmations as well as the work that you're doing. And eventually you get to the point where this one is higher than this one. And you start going, I do feel good enough. And you start setting your boundaries, and it's not scary to set your boundaries. You're not allowing certain types of behaviors in a healthy way. And it's not scary to do that. Then you start finding and feeling what you've been looking for. Now, the really important thing is, even in that moment, it doesn't mean all parts of you feel like this. I'm very hardcore with this stuff, and I've been doing it for about 2.5 years. But yesterday or the day before, I got to a part of myself that feels like he's not good enough. Even though I found my worth. That part of myself is not wrong. That part of myself feels like that and believes that. So I do what I do, which is I understand that part of myself, and I try to meet the needs that it has, try to understand it. I don't need that part of myself to change, because I'm going towards this part of myself with love. So even when you find your worth, a lot of people come up and say, well, I came to another part of me that still feels like I'm not good enough. It's like, that's normal. That doesn't mean you haven't found your worth. And that doesn't mean you don't feel worthy or good enough. But there will be parts of you that feel like that. And that's okay. That's the journey of finding your worth and eventually feeling like you are good enough. It's not about trying to convince yourself. You don't need to try and convince yourself. That's extremely gaslighting to a certain degree. I don't need to try and trick myself into believing I'm good enough. I need to show myself why I am good enough and how I am good enough. And I need to show up for myself all the time, which eventually will make me feel like I'm good enough. I hope that answered your question.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I got it, because I thought that I got something wrong because it still comes up. But as you said, after 2.5 years, you still have it. So I understand, okay, that's not so bad. I'm working. It's okay.
Yeah. And I'm hardcore with this. There isn't a moment, even in the conversations that I have with people online, and something comes up in my head, I'll be like, oh, I'll be checking that later. And I'll like make a note and I'll check it. So I'm like super hardcore with this. It's very, very, it's normal to feel like, remember, how you feel is a communication. Explore why you feel like that. Okay.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to come to Julian. Is it Julian?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can, Julian. Welcome.
Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to talk about the topic about the forgiveness. I'm going to try to give you my thought process. Please let me know if I'm correct or
sure.
About forgiveness. What I imagine is that this is usually because I'm trying to forgive myself because I hurt myself, right? Or because I'm trying to forgive somebody else because I have the idea that somebody else just hurt me, right? But sometimes for me inside it's really difficult to forgive somebody else because I think the probably is kind of narcissistic. I'm not sure, because sometimes I feel like kind of superior that I need to forgive somebody else instead of looking that person like a master that is trying to show me my my trauma or the idea of like a false belief, right? Like, for example, the example that you mentioned before, that, for example, that I'm not enough. If for some reason somebody just told me something that really hurt me, but at the end, that person is my master that is showing me that I have that wound, that I need to go back and try to heal that. So instead of that, shouldn't we try to thank that person instead of trying to focus on forgiveness and trying to probably look that person as a master that is helping us?
Why should you thank that person?
Because at the end, he's showing me that if whatever that person hurt me is because it was some wound that at the end this person is the instrument that the universe is putting there in order to I go back to my trauma. Isn't not like that?
No, I understand. The reason I'm asking this is because, well, let's just go a little bit further in. Why should you thank someone who hurt you?
For example, the example that you mentioned about I'm not good enough, right? For example, in my child, when I was a child, right? Probably I was chubby or not good looking, and when I was a child, somebody just told me.
You're saying you should thank them because they're showing you a part of yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. So I had the belief now in my ego that I had to be good looking, that I need to shape my body, that I had to be handsome and beautiful for some reason. And this person just told me otherwise. And instead of asking and forgive him because he did that, instead of that, shouldn't I go back? Probably not directly, but I think thank this person because he's showing me my wound.
Yeah. I will answer this, but I'm just trying to get you to somewhere first. Okay.
Yeah,
so
sure.
I'm not, you're asking, shouldn't I? The reason you're asking, shouldn't I, is because you've heard from somewhere that you should do this. I'm asking, the reason I'm asking you why should you do this is because in the spiritual community, there is a lot of misinformation and a lot of information that is just unrealistic and a lot of information that doesn't resonate with what part of the journey a lot of people are on. There are parts of you that are understandably and quite rightly angry for being abandoned, for being treated the way that you have been, for being abused. And if I was to say to you, you should thank the person who has hurt you, can you see how invalidating that is to your pain?
Yeah, but I don't say it like force myself to thank that person. Instead of that, instead of thank this person, probably thank the universe, the life for that situation. And instead of focusing in forgiveness, trying to go deeper on me, trying to find the root cause of all of this.
So we can thank, or we can be thankful for the opportunity that has arisen to understand myself better. But the message that you usually get from the spiritual community is you have to be thankful for that person for showing you these parts of yourself. You don't. And that's actually not the way to get to where you need to get to. The reason why we are where we are is because we are rejecting parts of ourselves. The parts of ourselves that are angry, the parts of ourselves that hold fear, the parts of ourselves that hold our shame, the parts of ourselves that hold grief, apathy, despair, guilt, jealousy. If I'm going down the path of, well, I need to forgive, which is not a choice. I need to be thankful. What I'm doing is I'm rejecting the parts of myself that don't want to do that. So I'm, again, rejecting them. I've already arrived here by rejecting these parts of myself. The path is not to then reject these parts of myself again. There are so many things that are said in the spiritual community and the self-help community when it comes to spirituality that doesn't make sense. They're not always talking about this level. There are some people that have been doing this stuff for many, many years that will eventually get to a place where they can go, now that I've done all of this healing, now that I understand myself so much, now that I am so self-aware, now that I've got this deep connection, now that I'm this, I can see things differently. And I'm able to, after all of the work that I've done regarding my ex-partner, I can now see and feel how that led me to this moment. And because I have so much self-love in this moment for myself, because of all of the work I've done, I can be grateful for, or better yet, I can find approval for what I have been through that got me to this place. But that doesn't matter to the person who's not in that place. That's the wrong advice and the wrong information for that person. What we need to do is we need to learn how to validate all of these parts of ourselves. And I can't validate the parts of me that are angry for being hurt by trying to force myself to forgive, which is not a choice, which I can't forcefully do. I can't say thank you to my abuser and feel okay about it because these parts of myself don't feel okay about it. I need to validate them. And eventually, at some point, I can get to a place of finding approval for what I have been through because it's made me to the person I am today. But no, you don't need to thank people that have hurt you. If anything, you need to validate the parts of yourself that are hurt by those people.
Okay.
Go towards that part of yourself. And like I said, to get a clearer understanding of forgiveness, I released a YouTube video today regarding forgiveness. Watch that after this. It's about 20 minutes long. We go deep into it. It gives a much deeper understanding of forgiveness. Okay?
Okay.
I hope that helps.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Julie. I'm going to go straight to the next person for the hands up, which is Karina. Hey, how you doing, Karina?
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
I was so much caught in the conversations because I did have a question, but up to my moment, a lot of them got answered. Very enlightening day for me today, starting with the forgiveness video, and I'm blown away by today. I'm being tested, and I had so many questions, and the video today made me realize that I need to let go of my old self and embrace my shadow completely because it's a part of me. And I have had so much resentment towards the weak part of myself that allowed herself to be manipulated by the people around me. And I was so angry these past days, and I didn't know why, but today it was very enlightening. So thank you to everybody, because the questions and the answers were amazing. For me, everything is happening in the same time, so I can't split them. And I am practicing meditations for staying and being in the present moment, mind of the body experience, and taking the body off the vest, because my studies lately led me to become aware that we're living in the past, and I am still in survival mode because I am living in the past, and I had no idea what that meant. And now I know, and I now realize how important is the Becoming the New You meditation. Now I understand it. Yeah. And I'm struggling with the high vibrations emotions, to be honest, because I have realized that I don't know how to feel them because I haven't felt them. Mm-hmm. So how do we know that? I mean, there are some emotions when I'm bringing them up, I feel my body differently, mm-hmm. but I'm not feeling them here completely. So how do I exercise opening this part of myself more in order to raise the emotion and elevate the vibration? I think it makes sense, the question. I don't know.
No, it does. I understand what you're saying. There's two parts I want to explain. There's two separate things you've said that I want to address. One of them is that, what we hear a lot in the, again, spiritual community, and I've been really bashing it today, spiritual community and healing community, is that the shadow sounds dangerous and dark and this evil part of you, and it couldn't be. Like, it's the opposite of what it actually is. The shadow is something that we need to fully embrace. The ego is not against you. The ego is not the bad guy. The ego, there is no living soul on this planet that will be able to get to where you want to get to by rejecting the ego. The ego is something we need to learn how to love. We need to understand that every single behavior of the ego is a learned behavior of how that part of me has learned to keep me safe, even if that has gone towards, breaking a relationship, or making, getting me fired at work, or losing this relationship, or whatever it is. We need to understand the deep-rooted reasons of why this part of me behaved this way. And this is the journey. It's not about understanding that in my mind, it's about feeling that in my heart. Feeling, and the way that I feel that is by connecting to these parts of myself. We integrate these parts of ourselves, which is how we can understand them much better. We understand them through feeling what they feel without trying to change what they're saying, what they're thinking, what they believe. And once we connect to them fully, we understand them to the degree that we then realize that they're only trying to do what they believe will keep us safe. And that also plays a role in how I can start feeling here. I feel in my body. I don't feel in my mind. The reason why it's hard for us to feel is because we've been outside of our body our entire lives, because our upbringing has taught us to reject how we feel. And our upbringing has taught us that how we feel is incorrect. It's not right. We've learned that in so many different ways, from being told that I shouldn't be angry, to being told that big boys and big girls don't cry. I've never been allowed to feel how I feel, and every time I do, I get rejected. Every time I do, I get scolded. Every time I have been me authentically in that moment, and if it doesn't fit to this expectation that my caregivers had, I will be rejected. So I'm gonna get rid of this part of myself. And I'm always hyper aware of my behavior. Is my behavior correct? Is my behavior in a way that I actually feel safe? I'm not being rejected, because when I'm rejected, it's annihilation, it's unsafe. So now I need to make sure that my behavior is correct. Well, how do I make sure my behavior is correct? Who defines my behavior being correct? It's my caregivers. It's the people outside of me. Whether my caregivers are my parents or my grandparents or my uncle or my teacher or anyone else, they're dictating if I'm behaving correctly or not. And if I'm not behaving correctly, I'm unsafe. So they're dictating whether I'm safe or not. So I need to find out. That means I get my safety outside of me. So I'm always going to go out to get my safety. The way I get my safety is by I attune. I'm hyper aware to how people are, because when they're upset or they're angry, I'm unsafe. So I'm energetically out of my body. Energetically, I'm hyper attuned and hyper aware of other people. I've lived like this for so long because I look at my parents or my caregivers and they'll go, yeah, no, is this okay? Like, is it okay to do this? Like, oh no, it's not okay. Okay, that's unsafe. I won't do that. Oh, and then sometimes like, oh, it is okay to do this. Fine, fantastic. This is safe. So I'm always getting my safety externally. I'm never in my body. So it's not safe to be in my body. I've never found safety in my body. I've always found it externally. Right now, you're on this journey of learning new stuff and unlearning old stuff. Part of your journey is to learn how to feel safe in your body again. But that requires you to take yourself back into your body more often. You can do this in a meditative state. I think you've got my Emotionally Heal Yourself course. In that course,
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
And I'm actively working. It was very interesting hearing you now. I realized that I have been the good girl because I needed love.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm blaming the good girl for getting me here. I should love her.
She's kept you safe.
I understand. She's kept me safe, yes.
Yeah. Look how amazing she did. You're alive.
I am,
yeah.
Thankfully. I was very close.
Yeah, she's done amazing. She's powerful. This is power. We see these parts of ourselves as like, ugh, like, can't believe you did that. But they're the most powerful parts of us. It kept us going this whole time. How can I ever be angry at these parts of myself? I've got a video called There's No Such Thing as Self-Sabotage. It's on my YouTube channel.
I saw it, yes.
Yeah. For anyone interested to go deeper into understanding this concept, watch that one. But in my online course, the one you've got, there's the Feelings and Emotions module. I've got about 18 different things you can do to start feeling again, start learning how to feel and be in your body. Yeah, you can go through that. But
I have been practicing, but at some point I asked myself the question, but I think I have the answer. Aren't I re-traumatizing myself by reliving those emotions? And listening to everyone, I got the answer that if you're not validating, you're re-traumatizing. So you need to validate in order to integrate.
Let me tell you right now, you're not re-traumatizing. Your re-traumatizing is very unique. What you're doing is let's say there's a part of you that you've rejected, an aspect of you that you've rejected, and this is a part of you that you're on the path of healing right now. I'd say it's rejected in my subconscious, and the closer it gets to me, the more I feel what it's carrying. That might be shame or anger or something, fear, and I feel it and I feel it. I can have that part of myself be like this close, and it really makes me feel the fear. And I feel so much anxiety, and anxiety is a mask of a suppressed emotion. So under that sensation of anxiety is this fear. But even at this moment, I can then reject it again.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
So people are like, oh, you're re-traumatizing yourself. You're not. You're just nearly fully taking it on, but you're not.
You're afraid to take it on completely.
Yeah.
I understand.
So it's that ability. And honestly, this becomes like, you know, when I started, I didn't fully just take everything on all the time. It took me a while to like get comfortable. And the more you do, the easier it gets. And the beginning times, your entire life, you've been told to reject these parts of yourself. Your entire life, this is how you've stayed safe. When you start doing the exact opposite, it's going to be scary. And that's normal.
Yeah, some parts of me are scary to take on. I understand now what you're saying. Yeah. I was stopping because I thought I'm re-traumatizing myself, but now I see I was just afraid to take them fully.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Okay, I do have a direct message, and then I'm going to come to you, Lucy, straight after that. Hi, Ariane. I can't get myself to start journaling. For some reason, it feels wrong. I just sometimes don't know how to put my feelings into words. Do you have any recommendations for something that will help me to understand my feelings and then start journaling? It can be very, very challenging. We know the path that we need to go towards that will take us to where we're looking to get to. So do many other parts of ourselves. And it's very easy for them to kind of go, no, don't do that. Let's not go down this path. I don't think it's good. It's very, very normal. And depending on to the degree of the intensity, it can also happen at different stages of your journey. Journaling will take you towards what you have been avoiding this whole time. And that's normal. That's the reason we journal. But it doesn't mean it's going to take you right into the deep end. It's not going to throw you in the middle of your fear. There are ways that you can go into the deep end as well, but the simple act of journaling isn't necessarily going to do that. So I need you to understand that when you're feeling like you don't want to, it doesn't mean that you're incapable of doing it. It just means that these parts of you are trying to keep you safe from the way that it's always kept you safe from going towards these parts of yourself. What you can do in terms, if we're talking specifically about journaling, what you can do is you can sit quietly without journaling. Maybe put an eye mask on. Sometimes what I do is I put like headphones in without any music, or like really soft, no lyrics, quiet music. And then I just observe my thoughts and I allow them to come up, and I explore why these thoughts are there. Now, in terms of that can also be overwhelming as well. In terms of journaling, what you can do is you can start to say to yourself, right, I'm only going to write 2 lines, 5 lines. I'm only going to write a paragraph, whatever you feel comfortable with. And I'm just going to write what I'm thinking. And that's it. You can start at a much, much lower level. Sometimes when you go, right, I'm going to go journaling, this expectation that you have to do this and you have to go here and this is how it needs to be can be quite overwhelming. And then depending on the experiences you've had, it might be a part of you is like, well, what if it's not perfect? What if we don't do it? What if I can't achieve it? Like, so additionally from the act of journaling that will take me to these parts of myself that I don't want to go, there's also other parts that don't want me to do it because I might not do it right. Or then someone might find it and then someone will laugh at me. And then I'm not able to do this. I'm not capable. But what we can do is like, all right, I'm going to just do 1 sentence or 2 sentences or 5 sentences or 10 sentences or a paragraph. The idea of journaling, and one of the biggest benefits of journaling is to get that stuff out of your head, to get your thoughts out of your head, to see it, to understand it. Now, when you journal, however many sentences you do, we want to be very aware that we don't want to be critical in the sense of, well, I shouldn't be thinking that, or I shouldn't be feeling like this. We are exploring in order to understand. But to answer your questions of how you can start doing these is by starting very small, however small you need to start. If that's 1 sentence, 2 sentences, 5, 10, paragraph, 1 page, 2 pages, whatever that is, you find whatever you feel comfortable with in terms of journaling and start there. I hope that helps. I'm going to come to you, Lucy. Hello.
Good evening.
Hi, Lucy.
Hi. Just wanted to start by saying thank you for this. And I hope I don't want to cry, but it's been very, I can relate to everyone who's talked. So I have to calm myself.
That's okay. Take your time.
But I've been crying a lot, so sorry.
Take your time, Lucy.
Forgive me if I talk fast. I tend to do that if I'm anxious.
Sure.
And also I'm mindful there is other people behind me. My question, I need to say a bit of my background so you can understand.
We have plenty of time. Don't worry. Take your time.
Okay. Basically, my mom left me and my brother when we were 6 and 8. My dad raised us as a true dad, hero for me. And the fact my mom left me obviously gave me abandonment issues and traumas that I'm still dealing with today. Obviously, makes us, it makes us, who we are. So I've been working on myself every day that I can. I've got limitation, obviously we all have. That's why we seek externally, like to you or to other people that knows more than us. Corinna, it relate a lot to what you said. I tend to, my past always come back to me, and I try to not ignore it because, I don't want to brush it off. It's who I am. I have to acknowledge it and work with it. But I'm someone who I feel too much. I feel the people's emotions. And it is draining. So the fact is, I want to forgive myself too. Sometimes not reacting, the way I should. Because some people cannot understand whether it's at work, whether it's, socially. And it's okay, I understand, they cannot understand what I'm feeling. But the fact is also, my mom, obviously my dad passed away suddenly 14 years ago. My mom is still here. I live in England, and I'm from France originally. So now I'm a single mom to a little girl. And something that's relevant as well. When my dad passed away, my mom decided to leave her husband at that time. Unfortunately, a few months before he passed suddenly. So there was big drama around my dad's funeral, and I didn't speak to her for two years. And also when I grew up around 15, my dad was never someone talking emotionally. He was doing everything on paper, like raising his children, sacrificing himself, never remarrying, and making sure we have food on the table and everything. But emotionally, and the love was not said, was not. So I've struggled with that, but I've realized he's done all he could up to his limits. And I made him suffer when I decided suddenly one Christmas, I want to try to forget my maternal love, I want to see if it's better on that side. So I went for a few years. I realized my mom is never going to be that way. Only realize now, obviously. And now the fact is, I have a child, and for 3 years I didn't speak to her. But then when I had my child, I was like, I want to break that trauma, generational trauma. I want to try that. And the issue is, I can see she's giving the love to my child, but she can never, even to this day, give me that love, that hugs, that verbally saying it and stuff. So I'm like Corinna said, I've always trying to be the good girl. I have a brother who's the elder one. I've always been the mature one. I always being never had issue in my life with laws, with being a good person. What is a good person? So now I'm thinking, but the problem is when she comes to visit us, she comes for a few weeks at a time, and she's in my face. So I try to control myself. So like you say, we can try to let go, but she's still in my life. She's still here because I want her to see my child and they have an amazing relationship. But I cannot let go. It's hard for me, and I'm resenting things, and it's hurting me, And obviously, I wish my dad was here. And it's about forgiving all this, but it's hard. And the fact, obviously, most of us would be an empath, I'm HSP. I mean, there's a lot of things. I'm aware of who I am. But it's about, forgiving ourselves for feeling this way in my daily life and interacting with people. Like now, I'm talking and I'm crying. I wish I could just remove that. So I could be sometimes taken more seriously as well in your professional life, or your feelings can be taken inside. And you say I'm talking too much, I'm sorry. So now we'll stop, but I want you to just try to have that, background so you can understand and maybe try to help me, even if it's not, in one go, I will know.
No,
I'm working on myself, but I always have those triggers,
Yeah.
And
from what you've told me already, it's very obvious that you're living a very heavy life. It's very obvious that it's very, very
I've
hard.
been very sick as well for the last few years. I mean, on and off, I'm dealing with things, so I'm trying to be a good mom. But we all have our silent battles, and this is how a human being is.
Yeah. I understand.
I'm sorry, everyone.
No, there's nothing. There's no need to be sorry. Like I said, we're not in a rush. This is a conversation, and it's completely normal. It's okay.
And I've left, obviously, 14 years. My ex-husband left us, so that's another thing. And he's a narcissist, which I realized after when I've done counseling, talking therapies. Obviously,
I understand.
It
makes a lot of sense. Without obviously the information that I can provide you in an environment like this is going to be different than if we would like a one-on-one client or anything. But so what I'm gonna give you is kind of like the highlights of what's gonna help with the understanding of what's happening. What's going on is that your desire, which is completely valid, of not wanting to feel like this, is what's making it harder. Because what we do is we don't want to feel the way we do, but we've never learned how not to, or we've never learned what we need to do in order to not feel like this. So I just keep pushing it away, and I just keep pushing it away. I don't want to cry when I'm talking, so when I'm talking, I'm forcing myself not to cry. That's me pushing away the crying. But these parts of ourselves get really, really loud. And this is why it's a struggle to talk and cry, because you're at that place where it's like it's getting nearly impossible to hold them back anymore.
Yeah.
These parts of you and you have to allow yourself to feel it. You have to allow yourself to feel the abandonment.
I do, but that's just a lot.
I know.
It's a lot. And you have to carry on with your life.
It is.
So you kind of have to put it in a cupboard for the day and pretend you're okay.
I understand that, and I'm not suggesting it's understandable that you would do that. But that's not worked.
No.
What will work is by allowing yourself to cry. And I don't mean just cry, I mean grieve. There's a lot of grief within you. Grief is something that can take a day to fully embrace and feel, or it could take 3 months to fully embrace and feel. And it could last for a day or it could last for 3 months, depending on what the grief is. But what we do, and a way that our mind keeps us safe, is by not allowing us to experience that experience. Because if I experience that grief, it means that it's true. The way that...
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. The way
One thing I realized in a few of your videos, you always say feelings and emotions are valid, which helped me a lot, because it's true. It's what I'm feeling. It doesn't mean people don't understand me. That is not. It's what I feel. Yeah. It's part of me. So obviously I have to start to deal with them somehow, and I'm doing my best. And also, like I say, because I feel so much what people are telling me every day, or how I interact with people. This is also something that's preventing me from healing myself, because I try to heal so many people around me. But naturally, it's not like I want to. It is. Sometimes we have a purpose, and it's probably one of mine.
Our desire to heal other people is because that's how we're trying to heal ourselves. I am a healer. I do this for my profession. And there are many people that reach out to me. I just can't get back in touch with all of them. I just can't. There's too many.
But thank you.
No, I understand. I'm not trying to say this. I'm just trying to let you know that if I was trying to heal every person that got in touch with me, I'd kill myself.
Yeah. Because you have nothing for you to release your emotions.
Exactly. But the reason how I got to a place where I didn't feel like I needed to is because I realized that doing that was me trying to heal myself. And that's the same with everyone. That doesn't mean I don't provide what I provide and I don't help people. But if I have a desire to abandon my own needs to the degree where I'm only helping other people, that's because I'm trying to actually heal myself. It's just that's how I'm trying to do it. But it's, from what you're holding, there's a lot of grief. And from what you've said, it's understandable that the grief can be about your father passing as well. And when it comes to death in the Western society, the Western culture, we really, really don't teach about it. We really don't know what it truly is. And we're always forced to have a lot of fear around death. And we don't talk about it. Can't talk about it because it might upset someone. There are different cultures that are very, very different with death. And it helps the society. I think it's the Philippines where they have a grieving buddy after a death in the family. And the grieving buddy is that you have a buddy that you literally go out into the woods with for however long it needs, whether you need a day or whatever, and you just let it all out. And if you need to punch the ground and pick up twigs and bite and do whatever you need to do, you need to do. Different cultures deal with death differently, but with our cultures, we just kind of, nope. So there's a lot there, and what we do is we just don't talk about it and get on with our lives and feel like we've moved on. But what we've done is we've just ignored the parts of ourselves that are grieving. Oh, you're on mute, Lucy.
Yeah. I don't know how it works. Sorry.
That's okay. You're back now.
Hear me?
Yeah.
What I was trying to say is it's been 14 years, so time has been a healer. And the problem is at the beginning is because when you cannot say goodbye, I think it's a big difference when in terms of grieving. Yeah. You're not able to say what you have to say. and that's been a big problem. But I'm at peace now because I know he's in a better place. I had my own coping mechanism for him to be, no suffering. He can have his life, but sometimes you are triggered, but you remember things, you have things coming in, and like me being emotional, that's as a person, I just, it reminds me.
So those are the parts that are grieving, not the part of you that feels like you've moved on. You're an ecosystem. You're not just one part. You're many parts.
But I can't move on because my mom is in my face. There's
an array of reasons that each individual can be. But I'm specifically talking about what I want to try and show you is specifically about grief here. We say time is a healer, and unfortunately, that's not the case. Time can make us really good at ignoring parts of ourselves. And if I ignore it, I feel like I've dealt with it. But I'm just unaware of it. Doesn't mean I've dealt with it. Doesn't mean I've healed these parts. Doesn't mean I've gone to where I need to go to.
Makes sense. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
And thank you everyone for sharing their story and their life.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much, Lucy. The next person is Ruchika. Have I said that right? I hope I have. Ruchika.
Yeah, it's Ruchika.
Ah, lovely. Hi, Ruchika.
Hi everyone. I'm also gonna start some background story as well, so you can understand. So I grew up in a culture where a girl child is a burden and a guy child is a king. So I have a brother and me and my younger sister, and I'm the elder one. But I have always find that my family is like a male dominant. Only male can do everything, and women are just there to get married, have babies. Study is not important for them. Gaining skills are not important for them. Also, the other thing is color of your skin matters a lot as well. And I'm on the darker side. So I found myself always struggling to fit in my family, proving my worth to my father and brother by studying hard, by being a good girl, by not being in a relationship, because I feel like if I'm in a relationship or with a guy, my father would be angry because he's already worried that women brings shame in the family, kind of. And then I kept on hearing like anything I wish or dream or a certain kind of guy I have as an ideal type. My brother and father kept saying, have you seen your face in the mirror? Like, why high hopes, kind of. So always felt ashamed of my own looks, my color and all. So whole life went like proving something to them, pleasing them, and still felt not enough, no matter how hard I try. Now I feel like the relationship I'm attracting are similar to controlling men, narcissist men, the men who are not emotionally available. And when I am also in a relationship, I also found myself ignoring the red flags and even accepting bare minimums. And maybe because I feel like maybe I'm not going to get from other men. And the pattern that I'm seeing is like overgeneralizing all the men, even if it's a boss, male boss, or someone who is trying to help me. I have a hard time accepting help from men, hard time accepting compliments from men, or showing my feminine side to the men, giving my suggestions, ideas to the men, because I always felt that it would never be appreciated. They would never see my worth. Then when I try to approach a man and he is not available or he is not interested, I right away think that, oh, is it because I'm darker? Oh, is it because I'm not good enough? Or am I not talented? Or I'm not prettier than the other women? But my other girlfriends, they say something opposite, like, you are pretty, you are this, you are that, you should see yourself. But I myself cannot bring that self-worth. I don't have faith that, oh, I can also be loved by a high value man. Like, I have really worked so hard all my life becoming who I am without any man's help, without my own brother and father's help or any man. Now, by doing lots of journaling, by releasing all those trauma and emotions towards my childhood, my father and all, I kind of feel that I'm at a safe place right now, but I still struggle with accepting who I am and accepting that other men genuinely can love me as well. Because I always have the question like, oh, is there something other behind this? When they say I love you, do they actually mean that? And if they love me, until when? Like,
Yeah, I understand.
Like,
I understand.
how do I that?
How do you what, sorry? Change that.
I want to see my own worth, the worth that other people are being jealous of.
Yeah, I understand. I was brought up in my household. You were brought up in your household. I learnt normal behavior is what my household behaved like. That's my normal. That's my familiar. You learnt what normal behavior is what was normal in your household. My normal is very different to your normal in a lot of ways. The definition of normal is to conform to a standard. Doesn't mean it's healthy. It's just to conform to a standard. There's a standard of normality in my family unit and a standard of normality in your family unit. You have become familiar with what you have experienced in your life. As a child, you're born, and then you go, oh, this is life. This behavior is life.
Mm-hmm.
The way that you were treated, whether it's good or bad, is your normal. It's what you're familiar with. So if you're in a culture or in a family or in a household where the men are seen as everything and the women are not seen as everything, then that's normal for you. Normal doesn't mean it's correct. But there are many parts of you that believe that this is the standard that you need to conform to in order to be accepted and fit into your social circle. This is how I've stayed safe. There are many parts of you now at this age that are like looking back at that and going, no, that's not okay. That's not okay at all. But that doesn't mean there aren't parts of you that have learned to stay safe by conforming to that standard. So this isn't about right or wrong. It's about understanding, okay, there are parts of me that still believe that believe that I'm not even good enough to be able to decide to have a partner myself. I'm not good enough to do anything other than serve other people.
Yeah.
I am being told that I just need to be a good housewife. I just need to be a good something for someone else.
Yeah, exactly.
If I ever was to go, I don't agree with that, or if I was to ever go, hang on, is that right? I would be attacked. I would be shamed. People around me would get angry. These are the people that I rely on for survival. And as a woman, when a man does that, it's physically intimidating as well. I'm terrified for my physical safety as well as my emotional safety. So it's not just on the emotional side. There are many parts of you that I've learned to stay safe by conforming to these standards. Now, as an adult, these parts of you are still there. And also, as an adult, your familiar, your normal of what a man is what you've experienced. So you will gravitate and you will attract the type of people that you find familiar.
Yeah.
So I will gravitate to someone who doesn't really treat me well, who doesn't really think I'm anything other than just there to serve them, who won't really, even they might say, oh yeah, you can do whatever you want. They don't want me to do whatever they want. They still want to control me. They still want to. So, and I have learned that if I question that, that's unsafe.
Yeah.
Because I'm rejected when I question that. If I was to go, why, that's not okay, then they leave, or they'll get aggressive, or they'll question, or they'll gaslight me or something. So every time that I try and either set a boundary or that I try and speak up for myself, it's unsafe.
Exactly, yeah.
And as a child, I couldn't just leave the house because I relied on these people for my survival. So, but these parts of myself are from the experiences of when I was a child, not now. It's just now is the mirrored manifestation of these parts of myself's experience. So even though I have been able to leave that environment, and even though logically I know that's not okay, logically I know that I want someone, to treat me well, and I want to be in a relationship where I'm valued, where I'm seen, where I'm allowed to be whatever I want to be, where I'm supported, where I'm not just seen as this thing for someone else. That doesn't mean that all parts of me are okay with that or even want that. And the reason they don't want it isn't because they're against me, it's because they've learned that that's not safe. So in the moment I may be dating someone and then I will question, hey, it's not okay to speak to me like that. It's not okay to treat me like that. Their response brings up that fear, brings up that anxiety. And I don't like feeling that. I don't like feeling fear. I don't like feeling anxiety. So how do I stop this terrified feeling within myself? I just need to conform. I need to do what I've always done, which is how I've stayed safe, which is, okay, all right, fine, whatever. Or we just don't talk about it. Or, whatever happens, it doesn't get resolved. I never get to where I want to get to because I never have done, because that's not safe to me. So you need to allow those parts of yourself to be felt, to be seen. You need to understand what their unmet needs are and meet them as much as you can yourself. And when you do that, you will eventually get to a place where you will start being able to set boundaries. You'll be able to start feeling, not knowing, feeling like I'm better than being treated like this. So I'm not going to even be in a relationship if that's the relationship that is on offer right now.
Like, I do have a choice to quit, right? I can quit if I'm not happy.
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually what intention you're putting out to the universe is what's going to come back to you. If you're in a relationship that you're not okay with, you're telling the universe that you can bring people like this into my reality to be in a relationship with. That's what you're telling the universe.
The codependency in the relationship, and to the point that you even forget your own self. Like, you're so busy entertaining other person, you're so busy pleasing the other person that when you come out of that relationship, you even forget who you actually are. Like, that's also been happening in a relationship. But good that I'm now noticing all those parts, like all of my past reflections how I did, and now I'm really comfortable being on my own, until I find that man that I want. But so you're just saying that accept all of your part and then just start to learn how to say no and set the boundaries, right?
Yes, but it's not about starting to say no and set boundaries. It's about going to the parts of yourself which then gets you to a place of finding your worth enough to be like, no, I don't want to do that. I'm not okay with that. I never tell anyone what to do, so I don't want this to come across like I'm telling you what to do. I'm not.
Yeah.
Because no one in this reality knows you better than you. I've not experienced what you've experienced. I don't feel what you feel. You know the best decision to make about yourself. It's about understanding why you're making those decisions. And when you understand why you're making those decisions, you can explore that information. And then in that moment, you can either do what needs to do or make a different decision, or next time make a different decision. If I was to, or anyone else was to tell you what decisions to make, you would be relying on that person. You wouldn't be seeing your own power. But it's about understanding that, you said it's very, very, one of the things that we do as well is sometimes we know where we should be or where we want to be, and we try and convince ourselves that we're there. And by trying to convince myself that I'm there, it takes me away from seeing parts of myself that need to be seen. If I'm truly okay with being on my own right now, why am I on a call with Ariane talking about this? But my desire to be okay, which is very normal, will get in the way of me seeing parts of myself that need to be seen. There are plenty of parts of myself that are not okay with being on my own. And I promise you, they are valid, and it's okay not being okay being on your own. I got to a place, I wasn't with anyone for 2.5 years. I got to a place of being fully comfortable in my own company. I was happy, but I still desired someone. It doesn't mean you don't desire someone. It just means that you're okay for the time being because you're okay in your own company. I never stopped wanting someone. Ever. And we never do, because that's how we work. We're a relationally dependent species. We're herd creatures. We're social creatures. Connection, herd, relationships is the core of how we work as emotional beings. So it's completely okay to want someone. It's just
like just think the parts of all, right? All of my parts, and understanding where it's coming from.
Understand where it's coming from. Understand the fear that they carry. Why they feel like they need to make this codependency is I'm depending on the other, depending on what the codependency behavior is. But basically, I need to abandon myself to appease the other, because when I don't, they leave. Because when I don't, they're angry at me. Because these are all my wounds. These are all what I've learned in the early years of my life based on the experiences I've had in my social circle, which is my family.
Does that go away eventually?
The more, I mean, yeah, it all changes. It's not like by go away. I wouldn't define it as go. It changes. It does go away to the degree that you start making different decisions. Like, for example, right now, and there will be parts of you that you cannot get to until you're in a relationship, and until you're in a healthy relationship at that as well. I'm finally in a healthy relationship right now, and there are parts of me that cannot come up until this moment. But then, because I practice self-love to the degree that I do, because of the work that I've done, I've been able to attract someone into my reality that can start holding space for me, that can start seeing me, that we can actually have healthy disagreements, that I can raise and go like, hey, that's not okay with me, you know, what you're doing there. And then she can be like, well, I don't agree. It's like, all right, well, let's talk about it. There's no attacking. We can disagree in a healthy way. We can work on it. But that can only happen if I've worked on myself to the degree that I don't abandon myself. That doesn't mean that you need to be a specific level of healed before you get into a relationship or anything. That's not what I'm saying. But I need to learn how to not abandon myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Does that help?
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah,
You're very
that
welcome.
does.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Michelle, fantastic. Hi, Michelle.
Hi.
Hi.
I just didn't want to take up your time, so put my hand down.
No, don't be silly. We've got time.
Okay, I just want to say first, it's been really lovely following you and your partner on Instagram. That you've shown her on Instagram. It's really it works. It's beautiful. I'm really loving
Thank you
that.
so much.
She's like seems an utter babe.
Oh, she is.
So. Okay, it was really weird for me today to realize that this talk you started talking about forgiveness, because earlier today I actually posted a letter of forgiveness to someone, and it was quite strange for me because it wasn't just like kind of blind forgiveness. It was like it's a relationship that was quite abusive, but the person was like totally gaslighting me and deflecting everything, and the thing is, I understand there was so much childhood trauma from both parts of us and stuff, and I still loved him and I still do, and he'd been hiding from a lot of stuff and lying to people about things. So in this letter I addressed that I addressed that I totally loved him unconditionally, all parts of him, and I called up not every situation, but big parts of the situations, and then said, but I forgive you. And I was like, can you forgive yourself? But can you actually like look at what happened as well? Can you stop denying it? Because I see him where we live, and I said, I want to be able to see you in the street and smile, because there was love, and there's just this denial about it. And after I'd wrote the letter and what I'd included in it, things kept creeping in, like last night, before I'd sent it and stuff, that were making me really sad. And I'm confused about what I want it to be finalized of my forgiveness, because I'm pretty, I forgave him all along, things that were happening, and I can understand it, and I can forgive him, but it's seeming like it's not completely there if all these things are coming up, and I don't want to have this is the reason why I sent the letters, because I didn't want to have all this unresolved stuff drip feeding it. So I kind of encompassed a lot of stuff in it, and I was just wondering kind of what your perspective on that was, because also, I mean, it links to something else you said. I did start making some art about the trauma, and then I took it all off Instagram because I didn't want to publicly shame him. And then I thought that it was dwelling on it if I done that, and I want to move on, because I want for my own self as well as for him.
Yeah.
I want to focus on the love and the peace that there was in it, and it's just accept that it's just damaged individuals' interactions with each other.
Yeah. No, I understand. Okay, so there's a question I want to ask you, but I want you to really, really be aware that this question is exploratory reason only, because I want you to be aware that this can take you instantly to a very defensive place, and that's very, very normal. But I want you to just become aware that this is purely to explore yourself. What was the reason that you sent the letter?
I did talk to one of my abuse therapists about this. They wanted me to write the letter for me, right? And And I wrote some angrier letters and I ripped them up, and I wanted to be heard by him of the truth. I want him to remember and to stand up to for myself, to be, look, you're lying about all this stuff to yourself and to me, and it's like, I haven't forgotten this is, but I also wanted him to know, you don't need to hide from this stuff because it's okay. And like, it's not, there is an element where, yeah, it's for me, but if I'm aware that if it was just for me, I would have slammed into him. And it's like, part of for me was, I love this man, and I love this man and the damage that's been through in his life, and I don't want him to hide from all of the stuff that happened, feeling bad about it, and then continue along those paths. I want him to feel accepted, and to understand that I have always accepted him and that I don't hate him. Does that make sense?
I understand. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on the beginning part, because we've said two different things here. Your answer was that you wanted to be heard. There's parts of you that want to be heard, the parts of you that are hurt. They want to be seen and they want to be heard. What if he is the type of person, again, what if he's the type of person that's incapable of seeing or hearing these parts of yourself?
There are elements that, that's happened. That's why there was so much like gaslighting and deflection, I suppose, because it was too much.
Yeah. So what now about these parts of yourself that want to be seen or heard? So he can't see or hear you.
Yeah, but then that's what that expresses into the art. It's like when I done that, I was like, I did art of like mimicking scenarios where I'd be getting shouted at and all this stuff. And
so who can see and hear these parts of you? Who can see and hear these parts of you?
Well, there are lots of people that love me. I mean,
what if no one's there? You go.
But I've made so much artwork that's taken me so many hours, and the artwork that I posted about that, just everyone instantly responded to it.
Yeah.
And I felt really brave for doing it, but then it was up for a day, and I thought I couldn't publicly shame him, and I took it all down, and I know that I'm allowed to do that for me. But I don't want to dwell in that. I don't want to be there. I don't want to be in that sad space. I want to be in a space where I literally, if I see him on the street, I can just smile. And for him to like know that that's genuine, that's part of why I wrote the letter as well, saying the acceptance.
Yeah, no, I understand. And honestly, there's a couple of different things here. So we in order to kind of address them all, we'd be talking for a lot longer. But I really want to kind of bring your attention back to this part, because this is going to be very, very valuable. There are these parts of you. There were multiple reasons why we do what we do, especially in the position that you're in, and that's very normal and okay. There's nothing wrong with that. You're not doing anything wrong. These parts of you want to be seen and want to be heard. Most people cannot provide that need, because we live in a time where most people don't understand that. And most of our friends will try and help us by telling us to get on with our lives and move on. And so their attempt to help us still keep these parts of us unseen and unheard. So by learning how to validate myself is, I see these parts of myself. I hear these parts of myself. I validate them. If they need to cry, I will cry with them, as long as it takes. If it takes 2 days, it takes 2 days. If it takes 30 minutes, it takes 30 minutes. But me laying in bed and crying if this part of myself wants to cry, and allowing this part of myself to be angry, allowing this part of myself to say things like, how could he do this to me? How can this person treat me like this? And me responding to myself by going, I get it. You're absolutely right. And I don't need to try and change how this part of me feels. I don't need to be like, yeah, I know, but come on, let's move on. And I'm just there with this part of myself. I just sit there. I just lay there with this part of myself. That's how I validate these parts of myself.
So even though I have because I have the conflicting sides, there's one part that there's unconditional, almost like parental with him, with the understanding that just is making reasons, and it's like, okay, that's all right. There's also part the vulnerable part of me that's really hurt by it, and I think this is part of why I asked you, because I was like, am I hiding from that? Am I masking that? And so I just
it's how we keep ourselves safe. It's how we keep ourselves safe. There are many different parts, and there are conflicting parts, and there are parts that want to go back to what was. And that's very normal, and that's very okay. And there are very parts of us that are not okay with what happened, and that's very normal, and that's okay as well. This journey is challenging, especially given the fact that we've never actually learned how we work. We don't actually know what's going on until we know what's going on. So if we're at a place of not understanding and not regularly seeing ourselves as multiple parts, I just think that I'm changing my mind, but I'm not actually changing my mind. I'm just taking this part on, and then I'm taking this part on, and then I'm taking this part on, and then taking this part on. And it's about
part of that is healed and forgiven him, and that's been sent in a letter, but then there's still some other stuff to
there'll be other parts that feel differently. There'll be other parts that feel the same for different reasons. There'll be many, many different parts. So I would keep exploring, definitely keep exploring these parts, and just allowing them to feel however they feel in the safety of your own environment.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So Hazel said, so why do we gravitate to a partner that's like what our normal is? I know I'm more worthy now, but I don't feel confident to go for any relationship. I guess I'm still working on myself, but sometimes think I will be on my own forever, because even though I'm worth more than what I've seeked out and accepted in the past, I don't fully have the confidence yet. So the question is, why do we gravitate to the partners that are like what our normal is? Kind of like the answer is in the question. It's because the reason we do that is because it's familiar to us. Unsafety is familiar because our environment growing up was unsafe, and that's our normal, essentially. So even though I want a healthy relationship because of the experiences that I've had might actually seem boring to me, because it's not familiar. It's not my normal. My normal and my familiar will be arguments, will be a lot of drama, let's say, will be me being treated in a certain way. This is what I grew up learning love is. This is my familiar. So if I'm in a relationship with someone that doesn't mirror that doesn't match that, the way it feels to me is that it's not love. The way it feels to me is that this isn't a relationship. It's boring. I don't want this at all. Remember, we are multiple parts, and all of our parts will play a role in this. Yes, that doesn't mean that you don't have parts that want a healthy relationship, but that doesn't also mean that you don't have parts that don't want a specific type of relationship that will mirror what we have learned is normal or what is familiar to us. Our versions of love are very different based on the experiences that we've had. I can logically know that I am worthy, but feeling it is different. I can logically know anything, but feeling it is different. One of the main things that I say to people is get out your head. You're in your head, and go into your heart, go into your body. I say this mainly when I'm working with clients as well. And the reason of that is because when we bring logic into it, we take emotion out of it, and we're emotional beings. Everything, these parts of ourselves, our connection to them is through emotion, is through feeling. How they feel is what dictates them creating the beliefs that they have, that I have about myself. I'm saying they, but they're me. So these parts of myself, how they feel creates the beliefs that they have. And my beliefs are that I'm not good enough for love, I'm not good enough for someone to stay, I'm rejected, I'm unlovable, I'm not good enough. But if I logically go, no, well, I know I'm good enough, these parts of me are still like, no, I'm not good enough. So again, it's the connection to these parts of myself. And I connect to these parts of myself through allowing them to think what they think, so that I can start taking them on, living in the reality that they're living in order to understand them, understand where this part of myself comes from, why this part of myself feels the way it does, and from there do whatever I need to in order to heal this part of myself, or understand what I need to do in order for this part of myself to come further forward and change the perception, change the belief, change the meaning that was created in the moment where this part of myself carried this belief or started believing what it does about me.